Alright, today I'm going to be doing up a European mount for a white-tailed deer. I'll be taking you through the process of removing all the fur, fleshing all the meat off the skull, removing the ears, boiling the skull in water. Yeah, I'll take you through this process. So I'm going to start off with making an incision right down the front of the face of the deer, and now it's just a matter of peeling away all the skin and flushing all the way down. I'm trying not to go too deep so I don't scratch the skull itself. Alright, so I'm just gonna start flushing down the skull all the way down to the lips here, and then hopefully you can see this here, and all the way down to the nose. As close to the skull as you can get. I just don't want to scratch the skull itself overly. At this point, I'm just removing the nose and lips. Right, so now I'm removing the ears and just skinning all the way down. As you can see, there's quite a bit of meat left that you definitely process. The neck meat's good for sausage meat or grounds. Anything of the sort, right? So you can, all this point down can be salvaged. Alright, now that we got the deer skinned, now I'm just going to remove the back neck piece with a hacksaw, just where the first vertebrae is. Now that I got the neck portion of the deer removed with a hacksaw, now I'm just going to trim away all this meat along the sides here, fat along the skull. I'll remove the eyeballs. Alright, right now I just flipped the skull upside down, and now I'm going to be looking to clear off all this meat here. I got the esophagus, the throat, and there's a whole bunch of meat here, the tongue down here. You see the tongue wagging. I'm looking to release this jaw here, so I'll be cutting through here. Alright, you can see where the jaw meets, and I'll just be cutting around here just to release everything. And there's the tongue. Look at that. Alright, so I loosened up as much as I can along the lower jaw here on both sides, and now I'm just going to try to lift this off as best I can without damaging the skull. So lifting it off, and here you go. Right now I'm just trying to remove this first vertebrae. Okay, it's still on there. I don't want to force it off, so I'm just going to trim around just along the bottom here and the sides and the top, and just to loosen it, and then I'll be able to just take it off. Right now I'm just trying to release the eyeball here, so I'm just cutting around the eye socket. Hopefully you're getting this. Go all the way around. This is the eyeball, okay, and this is the cavity, all right, to get into the eyeball, right? And instead of just cutting around the outside, which you will need to do as well, you need to sever this optic nerve in here. I find it's the best way of removing the eyeball effectively. So there's an optic nerve going into the base of the skull, and then you can just remove the eyeball that way, because you're still going to have that meat in this cavity right here that's holding the eyeball to the skull. So I find that's probably the easiest method to do that. Alright, so I got the deer head in the water. I put some Dawn in the water, probably about a tablespoon's worth, not quite even that, and we're just going to boil her up now. This is probably going to be taking a while. I'm going to give her for 4 hours until all of the sinew, cartilage, meat, everything has been cooked thoroughly, so it just falls right off the skull. I'll be scraping it, cutting away meat, taking it and just doing a pressure washer on it. I guess I'll be staring at this deer head for quite some time here. I should probably tell you how I ended up getting this deer. I put probably about 35-40 hours into this deer in one location. It was about my 5th day, my night sit. It was about 45 minutes before the light's over. I seen about 4 does cross between tree lines. There's about a 20-yard gap between tree lines, and that's where the bottleneck is. That's where they crossed over to the stream, just into the bushes. And I noticed this about 120 yards away from where I was sitting. They crossed over and crossed back, and they crossed over and back again. And then about 10-15 minutes before last light, this guy showed himself on the tree line about 100 yards away. He was kind of hanging out in the bushes. It wasn't the greatest of shots that I could have taken, but I was going to take it at this point. At this point, I was pretty freezing. I had no blind. I was just sitting in a chair in the bushes, camouflaged with the bushes. So I didn't, I kind of wanted to get the show on the road, so I was going to take that shot. And I probably could have got him anyways. I lined them up in the sights, had them all squared away, and then I pulled the trigger and click, misfire. And I couldn't believe it. I even bought Hornady ammunition, $45 a box or whatever it was. And so it was a misfire. And I just quickly racked in a new bullet, brought the sights up, and he was gone. And I was just like, no, this isn't happening. But at this point I just kind of laughed at myself, because I have right now 10 minutes of light left. And so I waited 5 more minutes, and I'm like, okay, well, whatever. It is what it is, so you just kind of carry on. Who knows what might pop out in 5-10 minutes. And I look up, and I see this guy trotting towards me at about 20 to 30 yards away from me. And he was coming right at me. And I couldn't believe my eyes when I seen him. I'm like, this can't be happening. So I just raised my gun and hit him in the moneymaker, and that was beautiful. I couldn't believe it. After what happened with the misfire, and it just echoed throughout the entire place, because it's all enclosed by trees, and it's kind of in a coulee area with a stream, and it just echoed, and I couldn't believe I seen this guy kind of trotting towards me. I thought it was a blow and I was done for the day, but this guy popped out again, so I'm pretty stoked about him. Alright, so the deer has been about 2 hours in the water boiling, and now I'm just going to be clearing out some of the sinew cartilage. Alright, so you'll see stuff like this all over the place at this stage. Right, so now you're just going to be peeling away. This is a lot easier process once you've boiled it. You'll see all this stuff over here, right? All this is meat, okay? Now, right now I'll be just kind of peeling it off the bone. And this kind of just peels off as it is right now. And you'll see the bottom. I tore away the roof of the mouth. That came out really nice, all right? And all these cavities. All right, I boiled the head for another hour or so, and now I'm just slowly getting rid of any little bits of flesh, cartilage that may be on the deer itself. So I just got a wire brush here that I'm using. Any flesh around the teeth, you can just brush off the teeth as best you can. Try to remove some of the tartar that are on the teeth. You're not going to get all the tartar off with the brushing. You'll get most of it though. Any grit, dirt, dentine. You'll also notice that when you do bleach it, this bleaches out a lot of that darker teeth color. And just around the front, I'm brushing it out. One thing that did happen to the deer is you'll notice that the front, where the nose is, it broke off. Okay, but this is not a big deal because you'll notice that these little pieces just kind of slide right back. So these just slide right in. I'll be able just to glue it back on. So there. They're slightly different colors, but once you bleach it, you won't even notice it. So I'm just going to use some Elmer's glue or super glue and glue those back into place. And the same thing with this side. So you won't even notice that it did break off. You just kind of fit right in there nicely. So that's not a huge deal. This part's usually the hardest part to get off. There's a lot of connective tissue, cartilage, and stuff like that. So I'm just taking the brush to this area as well as best I can before I take it to the car wash to get it pressure washed. It'll get most of the nasal cavity and whatever's remaining from the brain. You can also get these little hooks and dig in there and just kind of see if anything comes out with this method. But usually the pliers do work the best. Oh, there's a good portion right there. Alright, so right now I just finished pressure washing the skull. Hopefully you can get a good shot of this here. And yeah, the teeth, I'm just going to brush out the teeth a little bit more. Okay, and now I'm starting to brush. Just getting off any little bits of grit and grime, right? Here's the back. So the brain's all taken out. And that's kind of the main reason why I end up going to the car wash, is to get the nasal cavity cleared out and the brain. It just makes it a lot better of a product once you're finished. So this is looking good so far, and just going to give it a little bit more brushing. That's the last stage, and then I'm going to be getting it ready for the bleaching process. So the product that I'll be using is Salon Care 40 Maximum Lift. Alright, it's just a liquid, it's clear, it says. And I would have liked to have used the cream this year, but I didn't have time to run down to the city that has this. The town that I'm in right now, they don't None of the salons carry this stuff, so I had to go to a different place. So this will do the trick. It worked last year, but I wanted to try something different. But this is what I'll be doing this year. So I'm just gonna pour it over top for now, just to get it going. You do not want to get this stuff on the antlers, because it'll turn it white. Just the skull. And how I do that is I'm going to be putting paper towels draped over the deer skull itself, and I don't want to get this on my clothes either here, so and then what I do is I just take a turkey baster and then baste it whenever I can. Usually this process with this product, the liquid product, it takes a lot longer. I find it took me probably 3 days to be able to get a good whitening on it, and that's just too long. So that's why I wanted to try the cream and see how that worked out. Alright, so I'm not going to be submerging it. That's why I use the paper towels, because the paper towels will always have some of the product on it, right? So see, with the turkey baster, you don't have to worry about taping anything up. It just gets right in there. There's a lot better methods. I've seen people do it. They fill up a pot and just boil the deer in the peroxide. That's fine too. It would just take an awful lot of peroxide. If I was doing multiple skulls, that'd be fantastic, because bang, an hour later it's done, which would be really, really nice. It wouldn't be economical. These like, you know, to have that much peroxide, it would be insane how much money that would cost, and it would kind of defeat the whole purpose of actually doing it yourself. Whereas it would probably cost me about $80 or something like that around here, and I could do it for myself for nothing. So other than the cost of the peroxide, right, which is like $10 or something, $8-10. So I'm just going to get it wet so the paper towels adhere to the skull, and then I'm just going to be draping it over. I got the paper towel on top of the skull, and so now I'm just going to kind of baste it every once in a while. So whenever you know, once an hour sort of thing like that, give it a baste. And if you work, not a big deal, you know, just baste it when you get home. That's probably why it took me like 3 days last time, because I was at work all 3 days. So it only got basted, like I'm gone for work for 10 hours, right? So there's no way that, you know, in 10 hours I can baste it. So that's probably why it took so long. But yeah, so just baste it as much as you can. Every once in a while, give it a good basting, and it'll be good to go. And the pieces that I broke off, I just put it right into the peroxide. Alright, and then I'm going to try it out with some crazy glue. Some people use Elmer's wood glue. I guess that's supposed to be pretty good, but this Elmer's wood glue that was in the store, it almost looked like brownie color. So I'm sure it would have been fine. I just wanted to be sure that it's going to be dry and clear. So this is what I'll use. See how it goes. And here's the finished product after 4 days of soaking in the hydrogen peroxide solution. It looks pretty white. So overall, it worked out. Let me try to get a close-up shot. So yeah, overall it turned out pretty good. Pretty happy with the end product. It took a little bit longer than I would have liked. Next time I'm going to use the cream, Salon Care 40 cream. I just wanted to use up what I had. And here's the nasal cavity. So I managed to get all the flesh out of there. It's all bleached real good. And let me flip it over. And here's the underside. The teeth are still a little bit stained, but that's not a huge deal. That's just the underside. And then the brain cavity. That's looking good too, nice and clean. Make sure you get every single piece of flesh out of there, or else you might get flies or insects. And along the antlers, hopefully it comes in there, so it bleached out pretty good there. And backside. And nasal cavity right here. And all through in there.